officially launched by President William Ruto, an event that was graced by heads of state from the East African community. We're talking about Uganda, Tanzania, of course, Salva Kiir from South Sudan. We also had representatives from Burundi and Rwanda. And on the same front, Somalia was supposed to attend and they did not attend. They sent apologies. Of course, President William Ruto saying they did send apologies. They intended to come, but due to unavoidable circumstances, the president of Somalia could not make it for that particular event, which he had been invited to attend. So to some extent, the East African region has already endorsed the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga for the AUC seat. And of course, to make sense of this particular conversation, I have Honorable Maina Korobia, who is the Member of Parliament, East African Legislative Assembly, and Honorable Pamela Odhiambo, who is the former Women Representative Migori. This is the thing. Let me start with you, Maina. From what do you make of what we saw yesterday?
Yes, I have to take you back to where I serve. Back in March this year, East African Legislative Assembly, that is Yala, had its sittings in Nairobi. And I remember we were graciously hosted on this show by your colleagues. And during that show and during the sittings here in Nairobi, we endorsed and took it as an opposition of Iyala, the candidature of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. So Raila Odinga, actually, Iyala was ahead of its time. Okay. To endorse the former Prime Minister for the position of chairmanship of Africa Union. But what we saw yesterday was actually very good, not only for Kenya but also the East African region. It showed what you would call political responsibility. It showed solidarity in terms of East Africa engaging other political players and other actors within the continent and also globally. And I think that was a very good show for the East African community and also led by the heads of state summit. Okay. And I want to really congratulate their excellencies led by the chairman, the current chairman of the East African community, that is President Salva Kiir, our host, that is President William Ruto, the President of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, and President Samia Suluhu, for making sure that the candidature of Raila Odinga becomes the candidature of the East African community.
Okay, so let me ask you this. What does this mean for the country? Because, you see, people are asking that particular question. How does Kenya get to benefit from Raila going to AUC?
I have to say, actually, this is not a Raila Odinga candidature. It is actually Kenya's candidature. Raila Odinga is just the person who has been pushed or who has been sponsored by the country of Kenya. But the candidature on the African Union is Kenya. And actually, that's why these presidents, when they are buying into the candidature, they are buying into the candidature of Kenya. And they believe that Kenya will bring these certain benefits to the African Union and also to the region. And I think I have to also really recognize the personality of Raila Odinga in terms of not always being this passionate person around the elections. He has been able to always reorganize himself after elections. And this is a unique, from an outsider point of view, now being from the East Africa, people view Kenya as a very unique democracy where people compete. They compete with a lot of passions, with a lot of emotions. Then after 2 months, people are speaking to each other. It's very unique. In other countries, you'll find it becomes a matter of life and death. People don't speak to each other. People almost they almost overthrow their government. They actually overthrow their government. But in Kenya, you always find this kind of unique democracy where people speak to each other. And we have to give it to Right Honorable Raila Odinga for always making sure that there is that unique door where you can open for you can open and re-engage the other person so that you talk to each other and reorganize your country to move on from the elections. And that is what you have seen. That is what has been able to be appreciated also by these countries that have endorsed the candidature of Kenya. What does Kenya stand to benefit from the candidature of Raila Odinga or with his chairmanship? Honestly, first of all, job creations, because of course when he goes there, the immediate staff in his office will also come from Kenya, because you want to work with people who believe in you. Second thing,
job creation to how many people though?
Of course, even if it is countable, that job you didn't have it. For instance, today if Raila Odinga wants a communication expert when he becomes the chairman of EAC, you are going to move out of this station. You are going to create a job for another person here. So anyway, even if there are 2 jobs, 3 jobs, it is something that we didn't have. And we need to look at the positive side of it. Then he will create a network of, or a contact with the investors. Those investors, you know, there is something that is called charity begins at home. Of course, he is going to be contacting those investors to at least look at East Africa as a market that they can look at too, in terms of benefit. Remember, Africa Union works through something that is called regions, regional economic blocks. Those regional economic blocks, that's why you find even the chairmanship and even the positions within the Africa Union, they are shared according to regions. Currently, it is West Africa that is holding that position. Incoming, it must come from the East Africa. You have to bet from me that the person who will be occupying the next chairmanship will come from East Africa, and that means investment will come to this region as a first contact.
We'll come to talk about how, you know, his agenda, especially for the continent itself, and how the region gets to benefit from that. But let me bring you, Honorable Pamela. This is the thing. The same question I've asked, what it means for the country, and how when somebody is watching this particular show and looking at what is happening in the country and are told to celebrate Raila Odinga going to the AUC, and they ask themselves, so how do I get to benefit from his candidature?
Well, thank you very much. That's a very interesting question. But first, allow me to congratulate Right Honorable Raila Odinga on his official nomination as the sole Kenyan candidate, and not only Kenyan, but also the East African candidate to this seat, the chairmanship of the African Union. Allow me also to appreciate very much President William Ruto to come out strongly and wholly to support this candidature, and even rally the other presidents of the region to support the same. I think it's a gesture of goodwill, and to me that union is important for our country, in the sense that it has displayed and confirmed that we can sometimes disagree as a matter of principles, but again, we can agree. We don't have to disagree and become permanent enemies. And that is a good thing for the Kenyan population and even the African population as a whole. And so when you are talking about like how is it good for Kenya? Yeah, this is Africa, and I'm thinking of Raila and all of us as happy and proud children of Africa. And Right Honorable Raila Odinga has been such a Pan-Africanist. You know, he's been a strong featuring voice in the Pan-African movement. And one thing that I think I love to see in Africa is our being able to be independent and be proud and stand on our feet as Africans. And I think this is something that Raila has been very passionate about. And so I would be glad that we move into a scenario. I hope when he is there as a Kenyan, he would influence the doings of Africans, all the African countries, towards that direction. And so as a Kenyan, I feel proud that my countryman
Yeah.
actually led that kind of transformation politically, economically, and socially. You know, there is something so good and so unique about us Africans. Even our social setup. Africans are the people that you can still wake up and pick a talk with a neighbor. How are you doing? And you know how they are doing, whether well or bad, and you do something about it.
Okay.
It is not in the West.
All right.
And so I look forward to Kenya championing this kind of happening, and I think I will be very happy about it. And like he says, charity begins at home. You know, maybe we have never been very much concerned about this seat or this African Union movement and what it does, to the extent that maybe we may not know all the benefits. But I remember the day when the rapporteur in the for the infrastructure. Yeah. We ended up with the lab set. You know, there is, and that is nice. Having a road or a railway line that can transcend a number of African countries. Nations. It is opening our country to other economic or developmental benefits that may not be that direct, but indirect. For example, where that lab set will pass, you can imagine the plots around there. If people wake up and invest, it will be nice.
But if it comes to the country, then if he goes there, then he has to do it for the interest of the entire continent,
exactly,
not just for one particular country.
But I'm saying what my pride in it will be that our Kenyan leader championed this.
Okay.
Yes, and I think many Kenyans look at it that way.
Okay.
It may not have real direct economic benefits to us per se, but I said indirect in many ways.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so indirect in many ways. And this is the thing. I believe, because I've been reading some comments on the social platforms, and not everybody seems to be on the same page with this particular, you know, a bid. Some people have different opinions as far as his bid is concerned. Will this be in any way a hindrance to his ascension to, you know, the top seat, depending on what other nations get to read about what people are saying about the candidate that you're actually fronting? Because you're saying we are fronting a candidate and everybody should be behind him, but yet you have a dissenting voices and saying, oh, we do not want this particular candidate to actually represent, you know, the AUC, especially that coming from the issues to do with the protests that we witness in the country. A lot of and women seem to be not on.
You know, we cannot just. I want to agree with my senior here. We cannot just be. Raila Odinga is not condemned to just be serving Kenyans. In fact, I find him to be more of Pan-Africanist, even when he is campaigning here locally. You always hear him projecting of an ideal Africa continent. Okay. So we can't, honestly, we need another person to be doing the opposition work.
Okay, it's time for you to move away from the opposition politics.
We need to move out of Raila Odinga being on the scene of Kenyan politics. That position needs to be taken by another person. Okay. And let me say this. I have heard, in fact, there is something that has been lacking in the African continent. And I think Raila Odinga provides that thing. And this is the political aura. This person who can take a political risk. Okay. We have seen Raila Odinga to be a person who is a risk taker. We need that one at the continental level. Because there are some projects. Let me give you an example, my brother. For instance, there's the project that my sister has spoken to about the LabSet project. That LabSet project connects Kenya, right from Lamu. It goes all the way to Ethiopia. It goes all the way to Sudan. It will take itself up to Egypt. So you can imagine the kind of economic activities that are going to take place in the whole belt. In fact, I always say the easiest way to fight terrorism and banditry in the northern Kenya is through that LabSet project. Because now people will now look at other emerging economic activities other than keeping livestock and fighting over livestock. Okay. So for realization of, for that to be realized, you need somebody who brings a new dynamic of political thinking. We have something that is called Grand Inga Dam in Congo. A dam that is going to produce 40 to 70 gigawatts. In fact, it is projected to produce more power, more hydroelectric power than the combined power of Africa and the nuclear power of France.
Let me ask you.
For that to take place, that project has stalled, yet it was proposed like 5 years ago.
Okay.
For it to take place, it needs somebody who brings a political risk that otherwise, right now, politicians in Africa cannot take because they are being what you'd call intimidated because of the kind of potential this hydroelectric power will bring. Okay. And that project is in Congo.
So, from his speech yesterday, do you believe from that particular speech that you listened to him, because a lot of people have been talking about it and say, now this is the man for this particular job?
I believe the person who can make us, the person who can take us to the next political and economic discussion and conversation in terms of integration. It's somebody who has the political personality of Raila Odinga. Okay. Not a person who has been serving at the ministerial level.
Allow me to add something. Yeah. That your worry about dissenting voices should not be really a worry, because I told you a little earlier offline that when we are talking about support for somebody, it is about what that person represents to you. Like we are saying, Raila represents courage. Raila represents versatility in the political world. You know, that agility and the resilience that we actually need to make things work. You know, many are the times that you meet obstacles and you want to run away, but that is not Raila. He would want to move on even with those obstacles. And so Africa, as a struggling continent, needs somebody who is resilient enough and can cascade that resilience to other people, and people move, even when we feel very much defeated and beaten. And I think not everybody must like that Raila be the chairperson of AU, but we wish him well, and for those people also we respect their views. But I think the game is, as Kenyans, other people have been heading this institution. What's wrong if Kenyans produce somebody who can also edit? I think that's how I look at it.
A lot of people look at it, and not a lot of people, I wouldn't be speaking for them, but based on what you're able to read online, people feel like this seems to be a betrayal to the cause that was happening, especially from the June 25th, and that has to do with the Gen Z.
But Raila Odinga was not leading the
and the challenge that I give to the rest of us, if there is a good cause that we knew and we know Right Honorable Raila Odinga has championed in this country, let us merge, let us wake up and continue championing it.
Yes.
We don't have to die just because he's gone. That would be, you know, we shall have failed. We shall have failed as a people. We shall have failed as people who have been mentored by Raila and all the other leaders. You know, we don't create a vacuum and cry like, oh, now there is no Raila, now we cannot do this. No, we should stand up and move on and push for what we believe in.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I want to agree with Honorable Pamela that a great ideology is not tailored around a personality. Okay. It should be a cause that is led by first among equals. When that first among equals exists, it can be carried along by another person. And we saw that successfully being done by the Gen Zs during the June protest. Yeah. Particularly the first two protests. The others were just chaotic, and they infiltrated by selfish politicians.
All right.
And I have to say that
politicians, you are politicians, you know.
I have to say that the kind of the complexity of the politics of Africa, they need somebody who is a risk taker, somebody who has a larger than life personality. Okay. Because matters of Africa, they are very complex.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I want to take a break. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at how we performed last time, what can we do different this particular round, and how many nations so far have, are rallying behind Kenya and the candidacy of Raila Odinga, and how do we woo other nations to just say support our candidate so that we all make to the end of this this particular, road when it comes to the road to Addis Ababa. A lot of people say, I was at that particular event yesterday and they said, Omera, this is the language that you need to learn because that is the language that people are practicing at Addis. I have no idea whether that is true. But yeah, so we take a break. We'll be back in a few with this conversation on Raila's road to AUC.